Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison Lagrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. India's Home Minister Amit Shah directs states to identify and deport all Pakistani nationals in their jurisdiction. This comes days after the deadly Pahalgam terror attack, which claimed 26 lives. US President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff meets Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow to discuss Trump's peace plan for Ukraine. An explosive device rips through a parked car near Moscow, killing a senior Russian general. Following this, the investigative committee has launched a murder probe. And China says it is essential to enhance both bottom-line thinking and extreme scenario thinking as it remains engaged in a high-stakes trade war with the United States. And Algerian authorities reportedly rounded up more than 1,800 migrants and left them at the Nigerian border in a record expulsion earlier this month. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from India. As nationwide anger mounts over the Pakistan-backed terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam, the Indian Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi has arrived in Srinagar to review the security situation in the region. Top commanders of Indian military formations deployed in Jammu and Kashmir briefed the Army Chief about Pakistan attempts to violate the ceasefire along the line of control. The Army Chief also met Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha. Now, the Lieutenant General asked the Army Chief not only to bring those behind the Pahalgam attack to justice, but also called for intensifying efforts to crush the infrastructure of terrorism and its ecosystem. The Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant General said that every perpetrator and supporter of Pahalgam terror attack, regardless of their location or affiliation, must be hunted down and brought to justice. In this regard, at least 2 aides or overground workers of the terrorists were killed in a military encounter in Bandipora earlier today. Meanwhile, as the Indian Army conducted searches at houses of 2 Lashkar terrorists, Adil Hussain and Tokar and Asif Sheikh, the explosives already kept inside the houses went off. The local police have announced a reward of 20 lakh rupees for information leading to the arrest of these terrorists suspected of orchestrating the Pahalgam attack. As India prepares a response to the Pahalgam attacks, the spotlight also remains on Pakistan's brazen remarks defending its role as the state sponsor of cross-border terrorism into India. Earlier today, in an interview, Pakistani Defence Minister Khawaja Asif admitted Islamabad's role in supporting, training and funding terrorist organizations in the region. The Pakistani minister said the country has been doing quote-unquote dirty work for the United States for the last 3 decades. Before Defence Minister Asif, the Pakistani Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar hailed the terrorists who shot down 26 unarmed individuals in Pahalgam. Dar called the Pahalgam terrorists freedom fighters in yet another display of Islamabad's straight-up pro-terror credentials. The brazen defense of terror from top Pakistani ministers came after India took several diplomatic measures against Pakistan, such as suspension of Indus Waters Treaty, as well as the cancellation of all visas issued to Pakistani nationals. As India intensifies its response to the Pahalgam terror attack, both diplomatically and militarily, Pakistan's admission of its role as supporter, trainer and funder of terrorism in the region continues to loom large. This remains a developing story, and we will keep you updated. And now let's turn our attention to West Asia, where tensions are escalating as US-Iran nuclear talks enter a crucial technical phase. Iran's foreign ministry has issued a strong warning against any attempts to derail the ongoing diplomacy, specifically pointing a finger at Israel. Now, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi took to social media platform X, accusing Israel and its allies of employing various tactics to sabotage the negotiations. He stated that Iran's security services are on high alert, citing past instances of attempted sabotage and assassinations aimed at provoking a response. Araghchi, accompanied by his statement with a mocking image of a satellite photo with a cartoon ghost labeled "scary." Now, this warning comes at a time when Israel is voicing significant concerns that a weak deal could pave the way for Iran to develop nuclear weapons. Israel has been actively lobbying Washington and has even hinted at the possibility of unilateral military action to prevent Iran from acquiring such weapons. While US President Donald Trump has started his preference for a diplomatic solution, he has also not ruled out military options.
I think we're doing very well with respect to Iran, and we're having very serious meetings. And there are only two options, and the one option is not a good option. It's not a good option at all. And I think we're doing very well on an agreement with Iran, but that one, we're doing a lot of things, I will say, but that one is well on its way. We could have a very, very good decision, and a lot of lives will be saved.
Trump recently also stated that he and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are on the same side regarding Iran. This comes just ahead of the resumption of diplomatic talks between American and Iranian officials this week. Iran continues to maintain that its nuclear program is solely for civilian purposes and that it has no intention of developing nuclear weapons. It's worth noting that Israel is widely believed to already possess nuclear weapons. The current US-Iran talks aim to forge a new agreement that would replace the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. In 2018, during his first term, Trump withdrew from this agreement, citing significant flaws. Iran's foreign minister, Araghchi, has emphasized that Tehran seeks a revised deal that firmly guarantees its interests. He added that their uranium enrichment program is under the supervision of the International Atomic Energy Agency. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, while speaking on a podcast, suggested that while Iran could have a civilian nuclear program like many other nations by importing enriched material, the U.S. is currently a long ways from any sort of agreement with Iran, adding that a peaceful resolution is the desired outcome. Now, following the two rounds of what have been described as progressive talks between Washington and Tehran, a committee of technical experts is expected to convene to draft proposals and to resolve key technical disagreements. All eyes will be on the third round of talks due tomorrow to see if the two countries inch closer to a nuclear deal. And from Iran, we shift our focus to the Philippines as the militaries of the United States and the Philippines prepare for a potential war scenario in the Indo-Pacific with their annual Balikatan exercise. Now, Manila says that China sent its battleships close to its northern maritime borders. The Philippines said the 6 Chinese warships, led by Beijing's Shandong aircraft carrier, came as close as just 3 nautical miles off the Philippines' Babuyan Islands. Manila said its forces later detected a Chinese surveillance ship just 33 nautical miles northwest off the Dalupiri Islands. The Chinese warships were reported to be present around the flashpoint regions such as the Taiwan Strait, as well as the Luzon Strait. Immediately after spotting Beijing Shandong-led warships, the Philippine Navy challenged their presence in the area. Manila said that the Chinese military vessels did not respond to their challenge. Instead, the Chinese carrier battle group was seen moving toward the outer boundaries of Manila's exclusive economic zone. Manila's Navy, without naming Beijing, said they expect several key players to monitor the ongoing US-Philippine military exercises. And with Beijing's warships just 3 nautical miles off the northern Philippine coast, this was the closest that a Chinese warship has come to a sovereign Filipino island. Now, even as Manila and Washington flex their military muscle, and this amid suggestions of Beijing monitoring this annual exercise, China has once again asserted a claim on an area that the Philippines sees as its own. Chinese state media claimed earlier today that members of Beijing's Coast Guard were present on a reef just kilometers away from the T2 Islands of the Philippines. The area is accessible from the Philippines' Palawan province. Now, the uninhabited area called the Pagasa K2 in the Philippines reportedly had Chinese Coast Guard unfurling the Chinese flag in the run-up to the US-Philippine annual exercise. Manila is yet to respond to this latest show of Chinese aggression. As the US-Philippine military exercises continue, the situation in the Indo-Pacific, especially around the Philippines, remains fraught with uncertainty. And in our final story today, we turn the spotlight to one of the world's biggest tech giants, Apple. Caught up in the ongoing US-China trade war, the company is reportedly making a major move. It is looking to shift its manufacturing strategy. A new report suggests Apple could move the assembly of all iPhones sold in the US to India, and this shift could happen as early as next year. The company is reportedly aiming to source the entirety of the 60 million iPhones sold annually in the US from India by the end of 2026, a significant shift in Apple's supply chain strategy. Now, this move comes as a part of Apple's effort to diversify away from China, which has long been the heart of Apple's iPhone production. As trade tensions between Washington and Beijing escalate, Apple is adapting to stay ahead of the game. In the wake of Trump's tariff announcements, which reportedly wiped off $700 billion from Apple's market value, the company rushed to export available Indian-manufactured iPhones to the US to avoid the higher tariffs imposed on China. Now, Apple is reportedly making a more permanent shift. The reports indicate a plan to double the company's iPhone output in India, where Apple has been building manufacturing capacity through partners like Tata Electronics and Foxconn. While Apple still assembles most of its iPhones in China, the company is now aiming to ramp up operations in India to fulfill the growing demand in the US market, which accounted for 28% of Apple's global iPhone shipments in 2024. To put this into perspective, Apple assembled $22 billion worth of iPhones in India in the fiscal year that ended in March of 2025, and this marked a nearly 60% increase year on year. The company now manufactures 20% of its iPhones in India. Moreover, New Delhi's recent push for a trade agreement with Washington has further paved the way for its transition in Apple's strategy. And while India faced a 26% reciprocal tariff, it has been paused until July as both countries work toward a new agreement. US Vice President J.D. Vance also praised the progress of discussions between the two countries during a visit to India earlier this week, signaling a positive outlook on future trade relations. Meanwhile, Apple's move to India seems to be a part of a larger trend. Media reports have indicated that Samsung is also considering moving smartphone production from Vietnam to India, following a steep 46% tariff on Vietnamese imports. Google's parent company, Alphabet, is also reportedly in talks with manufacturing partners such as Dixon Technologies and Foxconn to relocate part of its Pixel smartphone production from Vietnam to India. So, as Apple and other mobile manufacturers eye bigger footprints in India, the country is fast emerging as a key player in the global tech supply chain. And that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again at the same time on Monday. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Firstpost.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.
Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From election